This story right here was sent to me by one of my patrons, Jason, on Patreon, and shout out to him for sending it to me. And this is coming out of Kansas, where you have this individual by the name of Matthew McPherson, who has been sentenced to 28 months in prison for defrauding the U.S. government. And wait till you find out how much money he was defrauding them of. This guy defrauded the government of $346 million in contracts that was meant for the disabled and military vets. This guy was he was on his Bernie Madoff. Now, y'all know I've been talking about PPP loan frauds for a while now. This one completely tramples over all of the ones I've talked about. $346 million, that is insane. And from what I'm hearing, this guy has been doing this for over a decade. That's the only way I could think of him racking up all this money, because there's no way he would have been able to do all of this in a short amount of time. Because $346 million is a lot of money. It's celebrities out here that don't even have a net worth that high. And this guy was defrauding military vets and disabled people out of millions of dollars. Now, I don't think this is the guy that you see walking into this little area. I don't think that's him, because I can't find a picture of this guy. But this is the name of his so-called company, McPherson Renovet or whatever it's called. But I'm sure they're going to talk about it. But this is like what he was operating out of. But I'm going to go ahead and read this article that was posted January 10, 2022. A construction company owner who is neither a veteran nor a minority has been sentenced to 28 months in prison for defrauding the government out of $346 million in contracts meant for service-disabled veterans and minorities. Matthew C. McPherson, age 45, of Olathe, Kansas, was also ordered to pay the government back $5.5 million, which was his share of profits from the scheme, the Justice Department said in a news release. This contractor not only defrauded the government, but cheated to get contracts that should have gone to firms led by disabled veterans and minority owners, U.S. Attorney Teresa Moore said in a release Wednesday, the day McPherson was sentenced in federal court. His greed and deception allowed him to enrich himself at the expense of disabled veterans and minority owners. McPherson had pled guilty in June 2019 to one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and major program fraud after admitting he participated in a plot from September 2009 to March 2018, so almost 10 years, about 9 years, to get federal contracts meant for small businesses owned and controlled by veterans, service-disabled veterans, and certified minorities, according to the Justice Department. McPherson's sentencing sends a clear message that contractors unjustly enriching themselves at the expense of our nation's veterans will not be tolerated. Gavin McLaren, acting special agent in charge of the Department of Veteran Affairs, Inspector General's Central Field Office, said in a statement. McPherson and his co-conspirators were accused of setting up two companies using straw owners to fraudulently win the contracts. The first was Zeeson Construction Company in July 2009. Steven Ziegler, age 61, of Weatherby Lake, Missouri, a black service disabled veteran, was listed as the nominal owner of the business, but McPherson and his co-conspirators actually ran the company and received most of its profits, according to the Justice Department. Zeeson was awarded 199 federal contracts worth about $335 million meant for small businesses, minority-owned small businesses, and veteran-owned small businesses, according to the news release. McPherson and his co-conspirators each got about $4.2 million through Zeeson by using false and fraudulent invoices, the Justice Department said. When Zeeson grew too big for small business contracts in 2014, McPherson and his co-conspirators set up another company using the name of a Native American employee as Zeeson Rustin Simon, age 45, of Smithville, Missouri. So they were using actual people's names and they most likely didn't even know what was going on. The first one, like they said, the first person that they used was a black person. Let me see if I can scroll back. It says a black service disabled veteran listed as a nominal owner by the name of Stefan Ziegler out of Lake, Missouri. And the next one they used when it got too big was a Native American employee by the name of Rustin Simon. So basically they were saying, let's use a black person and a Native American person, throw them in the quote unquote category of minority, because if we know if we use Caucasian, then they're going to be on to us. Much like Zeeson, the second company called SimCon Corp was actually controlled by McPherson and his co-conspirators, according to the Justice Department. SimCom also used the same office space and employees as Zeeson, and Zeeson falsely claimed to subcontract work to SimCom, and so SimCom would have a track record that made it able to better compete for federal contracts, the department said. SimCom won a $4.4 million contract in July 2016 from the Air Force and $6.9 million contract in September 2016 from the Army. McPherson and his co-conspirators each got about $319,866 from SimCom using false and fraudulent invoices, according to the Justice Department. One of McPherson's co-conspirators, Patrick Michael Dingle of Parkville, Missouri, pled guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and major program fraud and is awaiting sentencing. A third conspirator, Matthew Torgerson of Topeka, Kansas, had been indicted as well, but died in November 2019. Ziegler had pled guilty to making a false statement to the VA and is scheduled to be sentenced on January 20th. Simon has pled guilty to 2 counts of making material false statements to the Small Business Administration and is awaiting sentencing. Man, listen, that is some wild stuff right there. It really is. And dated all the way back to 2019. But do you see all the hurdles and hoops that they jumped through just to commit this fraud for as long as they did? They said this thing started back in September 2009 and went on to March 2018. And they basically, they're just now getting sentenced for what they did. That's why I said this person was on their Bernie Madoff, because that's the same thing basically that Bernie Madoff was doing. And I truly believe he should get the same amount of time that Bernie Madoff did, which was life in prison. Of course, you know, Bernie passed away a couple years back. But they said they're only giving him 28 months, which is about 2 years and I think 2 years and 4 months. Yeah, 2 years and 4 months. So he goes in now. He'll be out in 2024, I believe, if my math is correct. But man, like I tell you, people, this is, like I said, this is greedy. This is just greed. People are greedy out here. And the thing is, they think that they go into this and say, oh, this is going to be a one-time thing. But what happens is they see this money roll in and they get greedy and they want more because it's not enough. What happens is they start getting accustomed to a certain lifestyle, start living lavishly, and they know they got to keep the money rolling in. They know they don't have the smarts to go and invest it and stop doing what they're doing to at least try to cover their tracks up, so they continue to do stuff like this. And unfortunately, the people that lost at the back end of this are the ones that were supposed to benefit the most. But see, what happens is when it comes to greed, you don't care about anybody else. Greed brings on a certain level of selfishness that many cannot attain unless they get into that certain level of greed, much like this person did and everyone else who was involved. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this story down in the comments.